parallel universes really exist. I heard him call out to me, but he wasn't home. From Reddit user Timely Discussion 90 comes a pretty eerie experience she had one night. So last night my husband was out with his mates. I was at home alone with the dogs. He left his house keys at home and I told him to text me when he's on his way so I can unlock the door. At about 11:30 p.m. I was reading and heard my husband at the door say, "Hey babe, the dogs didn't move," and I said, "Yeah, 1 second." I got no response. He'd normally respond with "no worries" or something along those lines. I froze when I realized he didn't respond. I messaged him and he was still out at his mate's place. The feeling I felt once I said 1 second was a feeling of gut-wrenching dread. It was like my insides ran cold and I have no idea why. It took me a good hour before I calmed down. My husband arrived home around 2 hours later. What the hell was this? It was 100% his voice. Reddit user Plastic Context 8570 shares their terrifying experience hearing someone using their shower upstairs, only no one was home. I recently moved into a 2-story apartment with no upstairs or downstairs neighbors. I've heard weird things a lot since I've been here. Footsteps, drawers opening and closing, my door slamming. But something I can't even explain just happened. My roommate is at work and I'm the only one home. I was sitting downstairs, zoned out and drawing, when I realized I was hearing footsteps and noise upstairs, followed by the noise of the shower turning on. After a while of sitting there listening, I finally got the courage to go upstairs and check the bathroom. The shower curtain was completely closed, and sure enough, the water was running. I could see the water drops hitting the curtain and slightly moving it. I heard it hitting the bottom of the tub. I know it wasn't on before, and honestly, this really freaked me out. So naturally, I got the F out of there and hid downstairs shaking until I found the strength to go back and open the curtain. After about 10 minutes, I heard the shower turn off. The curtains move, loud footsteps, then silence. I somehow got myself to go back up and about 20 minutes later, look in the bathroom. The curtains were now open halfway so you could see into the shower and the water was off. I checked the whole upstairs and found nothing. No one came down and no one went up. So yeah, just a note to this Redditor. Forget the glitch in the Matrix thing, you have a squatter in your apartment. I'd set up some hidden cameras. This was posted yesterday, so get on that. Ever had a lost item reappear out of nowhere? This happened to Redditor Dazzling Grass 7531, who said they grabbed their hand sanitizer from their backpack while sitting on the couch, used it, and went to bed. The next day they noticed it was missing. They searched everywhere, tearing apart their backpack, checking the couch cushions, but there was no sign of it. They finally remembered the Wi-Fi camera they had set up to watch their pets, which was aimed at the couch. Checking the footage, they found the moment where they put the sanitizer back in the backpack. So they went to check the backpack one more time, and there it was, clearly visible in the main compartment. Dazzling Grass finished off by saying, "I'm absolutely certain it was not in there. It's in the main compartment, and there was nothing else in the compartment except the hand sanitizer. It would have been impossible to miss. I feel like I tricked the universe into giving it back." One commenter said that the story reminded them of the double slit experiment in quantum physics, and that is actually a really interesting point. For those of you who don't know, this is an experiment that shows how light and tiny particles, like electrons, can behave in very strange ways. Mainly that they can act differently depending whether you're looking at them or not. So imagine we have a wall with 2 narrow slits and then another wall behind it. When light or particles shine through these slits, you'd expect to see 2 lines on the wall in the back, corresponding to where these slits are. But instead, you see a pattern of many lines, like stripes. This happens because the light waves spread out and interfere with each other. But here's the thing. If you try to watch which slit the particles go through, they behave like regular particles and you only see the 2 lines. But when you don't observe them, they act totally differently, like waves, creating that interference pattern. It's very strange, but observation seems to affect how particles behave. Basically, what I'm getting at, for the sake of entertainment here, is if this Redditor never looked at the footage of them putting the hand sanitizer back in their bag, would it have been there if they looked a second time? Or had they just somehow missed it the first time? Ever experienced a Mandela effect that only you and a small group of people close to you know about? Like say, your car changing color, for example? Because that's what happened to this next Reddit user, Professional Ear 5923. They had a blue 2001 Volkswagen Jetta TDI, a car they spent plenty of time in with friends. Even though they didn't drive it much anymore, it did work as a hangout spot, especially since they lived in a small trailer with their family. They'd just been in the car the night before when they glanced out the window only to see that the car had changed color to green. The Redditor called their friends over to check it out, and to their surprise, everyone thought the car had been blue as well. This haunted the Reddit user and their friends, especially after they dug through old photos and realized the car had apparently always been green. So what happened here? Did a family member accidentally wreck their car and then replace it with a green one overnight, or something like that? Or could this really be a genuine glitch in reality? From Reddit user Black Widow 44 comes the Vanishing Mountains. I was living in southern Washington and would often kayak in this lake where you had a very clear view of two large mountains. I had a favorite spot I liked to kayak out to where I'd sit and enjoy the view. One day I went to the lake to kayak. As I was approaching my spot, I noticed that you very clearly could not see the two very large mountains as usual. I thought maybe I was too far away and the mountains were under the horizon or something, but as I reached my spot, the mountains were nowhere in sight. I had many very clear landmarks that told me I knew I was looking in the right direction. The mountains are very close to this lake, and before you guys say it, visibility was perfect. There were no clouds. The mountains were simply not there. It was the eeriest thing. It's as if the mountains grew legs and walked away. I had two other friends with me who frequented this lake who confirmed the entire story and can also not explain it. To this day, I am sure I entered a parallel universe or that lake was some kind of Earth vortex. Our next science-y theory on the list is quantum entanglement. So let's imagine we have two particles. We'll call these particle A and particle B, and these two particles become entangled. This means that they're somehow connected in a way that the state of one particle instantly influences the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. This actually happens. This is very strange because in our everyday understanding of the world, information can't travel faster than the speed of light, but with entanglement, changes in one particle's state seems to happen instantaneously in the other, even if they're light years apart. So how does this relate to the possibility of parallel universes? Well, one idea is that the particles exist in multiple states at the same time until we observe them. And when we observe one particle, it instantly affects the other particle's state, no matter the distance. Some scientists speculate that when we observed one particle and it chooses a particular state, the other particle might be choosing a different state in a parallel universe. Pretty hard to wrap your head around, but alright, this next one is also pretty trippy. See if you can wrap your head around this, because I have a hard time doing so, but the holographic multiverse theory. So for this, we need to imagine that our universe is like a giant 3D movie being projected onto a screen, and that all of that information making up this cosmic movie projection is actually encoded on the surface of that screen. In simple terms, the holographic principle is based on the idea that the information needed to describe a three-dimensional structure like our universe can be represented in a two-dimensional way, like a hologram. So essentially, all the details of a 3D object are somehow encoded on a flat surface. So some scientists have suggested that our universe, as we perceive it, might actually be this holographic projection, and this would mean that everything we see around us might be a kind of illusion, and the real action is happening on the screen or the boundary of our universe. So instead of thinking of separate universes with different physical laws, the holographic multiverse suggests that all these universes, including ours, might be interconnected holographic projections. Each quote-unquote projection could represent a different set of physical laws, making it seem like its own distinct universe. This would be like having multiple TV screens, each showing a different channel. These channels, or universes, might seem independent, but the information that creates them is all encoded on the same screen. Next, we have probably the most mysterious radio signal ever detected, simply known as the WOW signal. So in 1977, the Ohio State University's radio telescope received a very odd radio signal from outer space that lasted for about 72 seconds. The signal was so unique and unexpected that astronomer Jerry R. Iman, who was reviewing the data printout, circled circled the signal and just wrote "wow" next to it, hence giving it that name. What made the WOW signal particularly intriguing was its frequency and intensity, which didn't match any known natural source. So what was it? Well, aliens, of course, have always been brought into the conversation, but there's also the idea that the signal might be connected to parallel universes. The signal's characteristics were so unusual that some have suggested it could be a form of communication or energy transmission from a parallel universe. Lastly, we have deja vu. Now, this one is a bit different than everything else on this list in that it's a phenomenon we all experience relatively frequently that science hasn't been able to give a convincing explanation for, and that's led to a lot of fascinating ideas as to why it happens, including, of course, the existence of parallel universes. I say science hasn't been able to come up with a convincing explanation because, I'm sorry, but no, I do not buy that deja vu is just experiencing something similar to something you've experienced before. That is just the lamest explanation, and it seems to be the only one that the scientific world can come up with. Like, you know what we experience that's very similar day to day? Going to work, waking up, eating foods we've had before, kissing our partner if we're lucky enough to have one. Most of our lives are pretty repetitive day to day, but like, we're not experiencing deja vu on a constant basis. When it pops up, it's noticeable, uncanny to an eerie degree. So what's going on here? Well, one idea is that two parallel universes perfectly line up for a brief moment, and a version of yourself from a parallel universe is in the same exact situation, performing the exact same action at the same time as you. Thus, you get that odd feeling like you've done this before.
Starting off our list today with the Republic of Molossia, a 1.3-acre micronation near Daytona in Nevada. While this micronation, brought to life by the mind of Kevin Baugh, does claim sovereignty, it has yet to receive recognition from any of the 193 member states of the United Nations. Why is that? Well, because the Republic of Molossia is not actually real. Well, I mean, it is real, but in the sense that it exists, not in the sense that it's recognized as its own state with the authority to govern itself. The unrecognized town, or state if you're Kevin Baugh, is based off of the movie The Mouse That Roared, as well as Baugh's time serving in the military. The national drink of Molossia is called the Molossalini, and it's a non-alcoholic mixture of Sprite, grenadine, and pineapple juice with a garnish of cherries, banana slices, and pineapple. As for the town's currency, it's Valora, the currency issued by the Bank of Molossia. It comes in coins of 1, 5, 10, and 30 with an exchange rate to US dollars of 80 cents per 1 Valora dollar. Pillsbury chocolate chip cookie dough, however, is worth 5 Valora, so do with that information what you will. This town is truly a fever dream. Next up, we've got Green Bank, West Virginia, the no-tech town that is definitely not watching this video right now because, well, they have no tech. Green Bank is a national radio quiet zone, meaning that anything that puts out radio frequencies such as radios, television, computers, broadcasting, mobile phones, microwaves, and pretty much all other electronics are strictly banned from the town. Not only is this a very real law, the enforcement of the law is very real as well. The town has something called radio police, who go around using specialized equipment to detect signals coming from unauthorized electronics. They seriously aren't messing around. Now, if you're wondering what possible reason could there be for this town's strict silent nature, the answer is actually quite simple. Green Bank is home to the Green Bank Telescope, the world's largest fully steerable telescope designed to listen in on radio waves originating from space. Any interference on the ground whatsoever would render it practically useless. Imagine a world in which we bow our heads away from technology in allegiance to a telescope. Or, you know, just go to Green Bank and you don't have to imagine. Next up, we have Tangier, Virginia, located on Tangier Island in the Chesapeake Bay and home to a whopping 463 people, according to a census conducted in 2020. The town, or island if you want to get technical, has been shrinking since the year 1850, and I don't mean just population-wise, I'm talking about land mass as well, which of course directly correlates to a decrease in population, but that's besides the point. It is likely that eventually one day this little island town will need to be abandoned, and that after that the land will disappear altogether. Some of the island's more notable quirks, other than its small population and the fact that it's literally disappearing, or the fact that there is absolutely no alcohol allowed. There is no phone service, and there is only one grocery store. There are surprisingly 2 restaurants, and the residents use golf carts as their primary mode of transportation. Also, for some reason, the residents of this town, located smack dab in the middle of Virginia, USA, speak with a thick Old English accent for some odd reason. Next up, a town with a population of 3 people. Gross. I mean, it must be gross. Gross, Nebraska, that is. There's not much more interesting about this town other than the fact that it's pretty much a ghost town, save the 3 people living there as confirmed by the 2020 census, which I'm sure took days to complete. Of course, this wasn't always the case. At one point in 2010, there were a total of 2 people living in the town. So actually less, under one roof, of course. Take it back even further to 2000, and there was a whopping 5 people living in the town under one roof. A married couple and their children, all under the age of 18. Based purely off of the census readings, I'm gonna go ahead and venture a guess that as soon as they could, the kids moved out and left the town. I don't blame them. Next up, Solvang, California, aka the Danish capital of America. Basically, this town is the Europe of California. The town resides in the Santa Ynez Valley, and stepping into it is like stepping into a world where Europe is warm and just 1 hour away from the California surf. The town originated in 1804 and is, of course, home to a large Danish population. There is a classic folk school in the town that emphasizes lectures, singing, gymnastics, folk dancing, and fellowship. And there's a Danish 14th century Gothic style church. The architecture in the rest of the town is also incredibly Danish and incredibly beautiful. And the best part is, unlike in Denmark, Solvang is practically always warm and sunny. It's truly the best of both worlds, and I imagine the food there is delicious. Next up, forget Sin City. It's Slab City, located in California, USA. Originally, the area was used as a training camp for Marine Corps during World War II. Today, however, the town is the grounds of an alternative lifestyle town that has attracted people from all over the world. The name Slab City comes from the concrete slabs that remained in the area after the Marine training camp was torn down. And the reason it's on this list is because the town is just a bit different from what you and I are likely used to. First of all, the most common source of income in the town is ISS checks, which is just government subsidized income. The main source of electricity is solar panels, and the main form of entertainment is probably just hanging around. There are also some pretty cool art installations around the town, so if you're ever in Cali and you want to get off the grid or step into what might just feel like a parallel universe, go ahead and check it out. And if you've been there before, let me know how it was.
On to Doppelganger. A doppelganger is a biologically unrelated lookalike or a double of a living person. You might have heard there are 7 other versions of you in the world, or at least 7 other people who look like you. Now, if this is true, these other people could actually be you from another universe, but they somehow made it to ours. I mean, you've all seen the photos of people who look like current celebrities, but they're from the 1800s, right? Or those times when you get mistaken for someone. Now, scientists actually did an experiment on this. The team collaborated with Canadian photographer Francois Brunel, who has been collecting and sharing portraits of lookalikes around the world since 1999 as a part of his I'm Not a Lookalike project. The experiment shows that the lookalike individuals share more genetic variants than randomly selected individuals. Now, the team also found that the resemblance between doppelgangers extended beyond their looks and genetics. Although the study was designed to examine their faces, the team used a very extensive questionnaire, which revealed that physical features such as weight and height also tended to be similar in doppelgangers, as did lifestyle traits such as smoking habits and educational attainment. Now that is just insane to me. Next up is the dream realm. Dreaming is weird, and we still don't really understand the science behind it, which means that it could happen for a multitude of reasons. Something that other people, and myself included, believe is that when we dream, we go into a dream realm, which is essentially another universe. Then it's thought whatever dreams we have, we actually experience, just in a parallel universe. Now, it doesn't stop there though, because it's thought if you had a dream that came true, it's because it happened to another version of you. Yeah, it's all kind of confusing and weird, but I definitely think our dreams have meaning to them, we just don't fully understand them yet. And lastly, we have shifting realities. During the first months of lockdown in 2020, people started to go a little stir crazy, and this caused them to learn how to shift realities. Now their words, not mine. Reality shifting is a term that refers to the spiritual practice of transferring or shifting one's consciousness to an alternate reality and or the attempt to alter the reality one is experiencing and transcending one's physical confines to visit alternate universes. The techniques include hypnosis, meditation, biofeedback, binaural sounds, affirmations, and subliminal stimuli. So if you can shift to another universe, that means there are parallel universes, right? Now I wish that I could shift to the reality where I am a multi-millionaire. Now I've never tried shifting and I don't know how much I believe it. Could it just be their imagination? I don't know, but some people swear by it.
Starting our list off at number 10, Tyson Fight glitch. Alright, this one takes place in 1995 and it may be a glitch, but it also could be a time traveler. Who knows, both are always fun. This video is from a Mike Tyson fight, and while Tyson is of course the star, the center of attention in this entire video, there is a person in the audience who has us scratching our heads when we look back and watch. This fight, like I said, takes place in 1995, but when you peek into the audience, it appears as though someone is taking their own video on a cell phone or some sort of smartphone. This gadget that they're holding doesn't look like most cameras from the time and very closely resembles our smartphone cameras from today, with the lens not being in the center but more off to the side. Imagine having this video on your phone in 1995 with like, "Hi world star, I'd like to deposit a video." It's gonna get me a lot of views. It's great, it's a really good one. Number 9, the reflection glitch. This video comes from TikTok, of course, and it shows one very confused driver in traffic. Yeah, this is more than fair. This man started filming in a car that was slightly ahead of him in the next lane because he noticed something was off. Again, I wouldn't advise you to pull out your phone and start filming while you're driving, but luckily we got this video. The man is in a convertible and his reflection can be seen in one of his side mirrors. That's very normal. But you can also see that the man is moving his head around in this car, which is normal. But what isn't normal is the fact that his reflection is not moving along with him. So could be a vampire, could be a shapeshifter, could be a ghost. I have no idea. It's really one of those things that you have to see to believe. Check it out. Number 8, plane glitch. Planes are wild. I have no idea how they work at all. They stay up there somehow, okay. Sometimes they just look like they're floating on the exact same spot and it's so trippy. But this one here, this one is pretty weird. This video comes from Moscow and it shows what looks like a plane completely stuck in mid-air. Like, really stuck. Check it out. Imagine just casually driving down the road and then you saw this just frozen in the sky. I would think so many scary things. I guess the only appropriate response here would be to capture it on video, because how else would you tell a coworker about this? You know what I mean? Without sounding crazy. I'm gonna assume that this is some sort of optical illusion or some sort of wind trick here, but it's just very strange to see a plane that is that close to the ground that isn't either ascending or descending. It's just kind of there. Is it possible that the clear skies made it more difficult to see the movement of the plane? I don't know. Someone help me out in the comments down below because I can't sleep. Number 7, another plane glitch. This video comes from a flight to Edinburgh, which is a flight that I've done many times myself. It's beautiful. The passenger began taking a video of the propeller on the side of the plane when they caught this strange glitch in the Matrix. More than fair. This propeller is of course moving, or else, well, we'd probably know, but it appears as though it is not. How fun is that? It's a fun, scary optical illusion when you're thousands of feet into the air. This is due to the speed of the propeller and the camera's shutter speed, being synchronized, looking a little bit funky. Now we see this often with helicopters, but to see it in a plane that high up from your point of view, that's a bit different. That's a bit more jarring. Number 6, Yanni and Laurel. Remember this Yanni Laurel thing back in 2018? I'm still talking about it. It still fucked me up. I heard Yanni for like 2 weeks, and then one day I listened back and then it was Laurel all of a sudden, and then my life changed forever. Couldn't go back. This got everybody talking. What is this phenomenon that happens? Is this a glitch in the Matrix? How can you hear one thing and then a completely different sound moments later? The dress fiasco as well. Black and blue, white and gold. We see it often. What the hell is actually happening here?
Laurel. 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 Laurel.
While many believe that these viral illusions are proof that we're living in a simulation. And while these arguments are fun, they really just prove that we perceive reality in our own individual way. Everybody is living an individually perceived reality, so sometimes it doesn't align across the board. Sometimes I hear Laurel while you hear Yanni. And now I can't go back, and now I always hear that stuck in my head. It's just Laurel. God, I hated this.
Next up, we have the incredibly appropriately named Soda Springs in Idaho, home to hundreds of natural springs, but not just regular natural springs, cool natural springs, because they are free-flowing with carbonated water. Talk about bougie. A dip in a Soda Springs spring would feel like bathing in Perrier. Like in this town, when people say sparkling or still, they aren't actually referring to drinking water, but rather their bodies of water. How cool is that? There is one other thing about the town that I think is worth mentioning, and that is their soda water geyser. Yeah, not only does carbonated water flow through the many springs of the appropriately named town, it also shoots 70 feet up into the air every hour, on the hour, every day. Always, and I'll tell you why. In 1973, while drilling for hot water, residents of the town accidentally drilled into a chamber of highly pressurized carbon dioxide. Instead of hot water, they got cold, fully carbonated water spewing 70 feet into the air. Eventually, after weeks of the geyser continuously going and subsequently flooding the town, it was capped, making it the world's only capped geyser. As I mentioned, the cap is open every hour on the hour, so as long as you're in the town for more than 60 minutes, you'll get to tell your friends that you saw the OG soda stream. Next up, we have Casey, Illinois, home to a lot of big things for some reason. By that I mean the town is filled with giant, supersized roadside attractions, including these big antlers, this big anvil, a big bat, a big bird cage, a rather large bookworm, a big cactus, a big crochet hook, a massive ear of corn, a big old glider plane, a giant horseshoe, oversized knitting needles, to say the least, a giant mousetrap, a big old nail puzzle, a big pencil, big piggy bank, a big pizza slicer, a giant rocking horse, a big spinning top, a large wooden token, a big yardstick, and of course my personal favorite, a big taco. That's a big list. Next up, we have Gibtown, which was once the go-to retirement town of choice for old carnival workers and was nicknamed the last sideshow town in America. The place was like a carnival on steroids, 365 days a year. There were sword swallowers, Siamese twins, tall men, strong men, fire eaters, bearded ladies, and so much more. The town featured a post office with extra low counters and a beer hall with extra large chairs to accommodate its wide range of residents. At one time, 14,900 people lived in the town, which was also home to 3 factories built to manufacture Ferris wheels and carousels. Fitting. The town followed a strict Carney code and subscribed to the ideal of unconditional love and support for your fellow man, and retirement houses were provided to those in need. It was purposefully kept secret from the public as it was a safe haven for those who decided to call the town home. Today, the town is pretty much abandoned by its former residents, but its history remains incredibly fascinating and thus has earned itself a spot on today's list. And finally, we have San Luis Obispo. Not necessarily the entire town, but definitely part of it. That part being Bubblegum Alley, which honestly is one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen ever. It's literally just an alley covered in discarded chewing gum. And for some reason, people go there on purpose. The alley is 70 feet long and 15 feet tall on either side, and it is also the world's largest collection of used bubblegum. And it is also a giant health hazard and some kind of massive outbreak just waiting to happen. It looks so gross, and looking at it makes me feel gross, but hey, if I had to, you have to.
Hello, we are not available now.
And we're starting things off with a very eerie story posted to Reddit by Flarengo, who writes, "This happened about 15 years ago. I called my friend up and he wasn't home, so I left a message on his answering machine. I said, 'Hey, it's me. Sorry, I missed you. Call you later. Bye.' And then I hung up and left the house. I made no other calls. Later that day, he called back and he says, 'Wow, that was quite a message you left. Who was that girl you were talking to?' And I was like, 'What are you talking about? I wasn't talking to any girl.' Well, as it turns out, the message didn't end after I said bye. I had to go over to his house and listen to this message a few times. After my initial message that I did leave, as quoted above, there was a slight pause and it continues on for another 30 to 40 seconds or so with me talking to some girl. It was my voice, but a conversation I never had with a girl whose voice I didn't recognize. You can compare it to the message I know I did leave, and the two voices were indistinguishable. Not just the voice, but, talking mannerisms. It was my voice. Also, references to my occupation and activities were the same. Basically, in this conversation, I was talking to this girl about going skiing, but I had to go down to my shop and work on a car first, which totally correlated to me. Then the message just stopped. It was recorded on one of those digital answering machines that recorded the message to a chip, so there was no tape I could have taken and analyzed, unfortunately. Also, neither I nor my friend had party lines, so that's not an explanation. It was very freaky. I can't explain it. This next post was by Ninx Time, who writes about a time he may have seen parallel universe versions of his own family. The story goes like this. Around the age of 11, my family decided to go and visit my grandparents, and while we were there, I decided to go out and play around for a bit. They lived in a flat in the middle of the city. They had a road that had stores and a car park on the right, and had enough space for me to play around with my friends that lived there. As I got down and ran to that car park, a car went past that nearly crashed into me, and in that car, there were 3 passengers. A woman, her daughter, and a male driver. As I dodged that car, they looked like they had no emotions whatsoever and looked really dull. And as I focused into the car, the male driver was my dad. Very easily distinctive. And the car was our car. Same color, same car plates, same everything. I instantly ran to our car, thinking it had been stolen, but our car was sitting right there. I turned around to follow the car that nearly hit me, but it was no longer there. I ran upstairs to my grandparents' house without knowing what to do or what to say. Luckily, my sister was right by the door, and I told her the story and what I saw. She just laughed, telling me that my dad hadn't left the house yet. Next up, we have a post with the heading, Sudden and Short Shift into Parallel Universe by BB Shuri, which goes as follows. I was very much in love with a guy, and one day we were hanging out in his car, just chilling. He was telling me a story about his nephew who had a schizophrenic episode or something, and I was just listening, totally into the story, when suddenly I found myself sitting in a different car with him. This specific car was an old timer, and I had a wedding dress on. He had on a tuxedo. I remember feeling so happy and elevated, and he was a little bit grumpy because we were waiting for someone and there was this time pressure. We had to be at the venue. The scene lasted maybe 5 seconds, but everything was so real. I could feel the air, the atmosphere. I could feel my wedding dress, the temperature, the emotions, everything. I remember looking outside the window and seeing that we were parked beside a building, and the person we were waiting for was in the building. The building was on a hill, surrounded by nature. In a snap, I was back in the regular car with him, right at the moment he was finishing his story. I have no idea what he told me. At the time, I didn't know what the frig just happened, but now I can maybe see it as a glitch into a parallel universe where we did get married. Next Reddit user is NYZ312, who discusses a very strange incident when they may have died and shown up in another timeline. They write, I've never really discussed this with anyone, but thought this may be the place to at least see what you think. I was driving down a street that is somewhat busy, 4 lanes, 2 each way, and there was a light rain. I came to a light that I wanted to turn left, across traffic. There's no dedicated turning lane. I waited till I thought it was clear, but just as I turned left, someone came around the inner opposite lane and I could see we were going to collide. I closed my eyes. The next thing I knew, I was on the street I intended to turn on, 2 blocks up, on the side of the street, just sitting there, no collision. I gathered myself and went on, but I think about it a lot. My scar is on the wrong side, posted by Charming Medium. This will sound weird, but I had to share this, so I'll explain. When I was very young, I was diagnosed with leukemia. I'm now cancer-free, thankfully, but back then I had a port cath installed. It was on my left side. It was always on my left side. Once it was removed, I had a scar on my left side. I don't know how or when, but the scar is now on my right side. I can't even begin to explain how. About 3 years ago, I remember looking at my left side and being unable to find it. I looked around to see where it may have moved, but I couldn't find it. I eventually forgot about it. And sometime last year when I got out of the shower, I noticed it. It was on my right side. I asked my grandmother about it. I asked what side my port was on. As expected, she said it was my left. And she was just as confused as I was about it being on my right side. It still bothers me. I think about it sometimes. It makes me uneasy in a way I can't explain. I always joked about the whole glitch in the Matrix stuff, the Mandela effect and everything. I don't know what to think anymore.
Number 5, rain glitch. This one comes from Paris, when a man decided to take this video one day when the weather was acting up. Anytime you film weather, you always know it's going to be a bad time. First of all, it's not abnormal for rain to hit one part of a city while other parts stay dry with clear skies. I've been there before. It's trippy, it's kind of fun, whatever. But this one here, this one takes the cake. It's just raining in one spot, like literally one specific spot. One tiny spot is absolutely getting poured down on, seemingly out of nowhere. But everywhere else is not. It's just a casual, nice day. Now at first I thought that maybe someone from above was pouring water, maybe, because that's what people do, I guess, in their spare time. But the video does pan up and you see nothing above this random rainfall, so we can check that off our boxes. If there's a scientific explanation for this, please tell me in the comments, because again, I have no idea what's going on here. I can't help you. All I have to say is hit the thumbs up, you know, all that good shit, but a scientist? Please help me in the comments. Number 4, manhole cover glitch. I'm not sure if these have the same name in every country or whatever, but this video is in reference to a manhole cover. You know those really heavy metal lids that go on top of holes on the ground that leads to sewers? I don't know. Mario stomps on them in Mario Sunshine and then he pops up somewhere else in the city. Those. They're designed to be extremely heavy, so of course people can't just waltz into the sewer systems whenever they feel like it, which is probably a good thing. This isn't the Victorian era anymore, we don't want to be down there. But this video would make it seem like otherwise. This video is very short, but it shows one of these covers just bouncing up and down as though it's 1, lightweight, and 2, there's air coming up from underneath it, just bouncing it around. It would take a lot of air to do this, considering the typical cover weighs 250 pounds. This reminds me of the end of As Above, So Below. It's a terrifying movie. I don't want to see that moving around at all. Thank you. Number 3, people frozen in time. In September 2019, a Buffalo, New York resident caught this extremely eerie and uncomfortable glitch in the Matrix. A woman was driving past a park where she needed to take out her camera and record what was going on because it looked that messed up. It's, I mean, fair, more than fair. A bunch of people in the park were just completely frozen still. They were just like, out of nowhere. And it wasn't like a group of people in the park who were doing like a social experiment or like some sort of weird piece of performance art, anything like that that involved a lot of people or something being completely still. I don't know, it's like a flash mob that doesn't move. Is that a thing? That's the only explanation that I can think of. A flash mob that doesn't dance or move. They're like 3, 2, 1. The most boring flash mob on the planet. It reminds me of the scene in Logan when everybody's stuck. That's terrifying. That's a situation you don't want to be part of. That's not good. Yeah, do you see what I mean by this being the creepiest video ever? Everyone's just stuck standing where they are. What's going on here? Have you seen this? Someone tell me. I need answers. Down there. I need answers right now. And photos of Spider-Man. Number 2, are birds real? Apparently there's a huge thing going on right now where people don't believe that birds are real. There's thousands of people who are gathering outside and protesting against birds. I don't know what's going on. This glitch comes from a Reddit user called AmerXPOO from the time that they captured some birds behaving very strangely. So think what you want, but I think birds are real. Whatever. I'll let you take a look at the clip first and then we'll talk shop afterwards. When I first watched this, I 100% thought that it was photoshopped. I truly cannot believe that I was seeing this because there's just no way, right? From what you're seeing, these are animals. From the coordination of the flying all the way to the ripples of the color changes, I thought this was fake the entire time. It's not. As it turns out, this is actually perfectly explainable. This is called a murmur, and it basically is a defensive posture that birds take. Truly one of the coolest things that I've ever seen, hence why I thought that it was unbelievable. And there are more videos of it that you can actually look up, and I implore you to because it's fascinating. This is like bird choreography. This is next level. People don't believe that birds are real, and videos like this make me agree. Yeah, fair. 1 point for the bird Gryffindor. Are seagulls real? Pigeons aren't real. Pigeons are fucking weird. And finally, number 1, twins named Jim. Back in 1979, a set of twins were reunited. They were 39 at the time, and this was of course a big moment in their lives because for 37 years they barely knew of each other's existence. Yeah, that's pretty sad. When they did finally meet, the long lost twins had more in common than anybody ever thought. For starters, both had been named Jim. I spoiled that one in the fun title there, but both of these Jims, they loved math and carpentry. Okay. Both also had jobs in security. Okay. Their ex-wives were both named Linda. Okay. And they've since both married a woman named Betty. That's so many coincidences, I have no idea what's going on. Imagine meeting another you and he's like, oh yeah, I love knitting and Autobots. What are the odds? No way, that's way too eerie. That's a glitch in the Matrix or an alien clone. Something's not right here. I don't know. I'm glad you guys found each other, but maybe you weren't supposed to, know what I mean? I've seen some movies, I've seen Black Mirror, that's all I'm saying.
We're starting off the list with the bubble universes theory. So imagine the universe right after the Big Bang, acting kind of like a giant balloon, rapidly inflating. This is the main concept of the cosmic inflation theory. According to this theory, the early universe expanded extremely quickly. Now here's where it gets kind of interesting. Picture this rapid expansion like different regions of the balloon inflating at their own speeds. In some areas, inflation happens a bit faster, in others, it's a bit slower. This creates pockets or bubbles within this expanding universe, kind of like different regions on the surface of the inflating balloon. In each of these bubbles, a unique set of physical laws and conditions takes shape. Each bubble becomes its own little universe with its own rules of how things work, its own arrangement of matter, energy, and who knows what else. Next up we have cold spots. So imagine you're an astrophysicist looking at the vastness of space. Back in 2015, scientists in Hawaii noticed something strange, a huge empty patch where there should have been 10,000 galaxies. They called it a cold spot because it seemed like everything there had just vanished. Now, scientists at Durham University came up with a pretty fascinating idea about this mysterious cold spot. They think it might be because our universe collided with another universe, almost like two giant soap bubbles bumping into one another. When these universes collide, it could push all the energy and stuff out of a specific area, creating a big empty space, the cold spot. We might be living in one bubble universe out of trillions, and this cold spot could be the aftermath of a collision with another bubble universe. It's a bit like when two ripples in a pond meet and create a calm spot in the water. Alright, now this one is pretty cool, even though it has math in the title. It's the mathematical multiverse theory. This idea centers around the concept that our entire universe is like a giant cosmic equation, and every bit of it, from tiny particles to vast galaxies, can be described and understood using math. Understood by other people and not by me, because math was just... I get sick even just saying the word. That's the core idea though behind the mathematical universe theory. This theory suggests that there are countless mathematical structures and each one represents a different universe. Since there are infinite mathematical possibilities, this would also mean, in theory, an infinite number of universes. So think of it a bit like this. Our universe is just one solution to the grand mathematical equation that is existence. In this mathematical multiverse, each universe has its own unique set of rules and conditions, an infinite collection of parallel universes where physics and math can be totally different from what we know. For instance, one example I tend to use, in one universe, gravity might act in a way that pulls things sideways, while in another, it might pull things up. If you're unaware, our gravity pulls us down, but the possibilities are really endless in this theory. Next on the list, of course, black holes. I mean, we gotta talk about black holes in a video like this. Black holes are mysterious regions in space where gravity is so strong that nothing, even light, can escape their gravitational pull. In the traditional understanding, once something crosses the event horizon of a black hole, it seemingly is just gone forever, lost to the singularity at the center. But some physicists have a different idea idea that black holes could lead to parallel universes. It's called the wormhole hypothesis. This idea here is that a black hole could potentially connect to a white hole or another region of space-time through a tunnel-like structure called a wormhole. A white hole is a hypothetical region where matter and light are ejected, basically the opposite of a black hole. I mean, really, that is the opposite. So instead of being forever stuck inside the black hole, the matter and information falling into a black hole might be transferred through a wormhole to another region of space or even a completely separate universe, almost acting like a bridge between our universe and a parallel one. All right, the simulated multiverse theory. The simulated multiverse theory suggests that our entire universe is basically a massive computer simulation. Imagine our reality being like a highly advanced video game or computer program that we're just unknowingly living inside of, and everything we experience is generated by some incredibly powerful computer. Now, who could be the ones running this simulation? It could be extraterrestrial beings with highly advanced technology, or even humans from the far future running a simulation to learn about their own ancestry, like a gigantic virtual reality experiment. But if our universe is just one big simulation, there could be countless other simulations running simultaneously, each representing a separate universe with its own unique set of rules. Basically, it's just a bunch of alien children learning about us, and they're all just in their own little screens, watching different versions of it. Next, we have the string theory multiverse. So scientists have a theory called string theory. Instead of thinking of particles as tiny dots, they imagine them as super tiny vibrating strings. So string theory says that there are more than just the usual 3 dimensions of space and of time that we're used to. Imagine there are extra dimensions, but they're so tiny and curled up that we can't see them in our everyday lives. Mathematicians call these curled up dimensions Calabi-Yau manifolds, which are basically complex shapes used to describe these hidden dimensions. In the world of string theory, these extra dimensions can have different configurations or setups, kind of like multiple radio stations, each playing a different song. In this case, each configuration could represent a different set of physical laws and constants, the rules that govern how things work in our universe. Our universe, in this grand scheme of things, is like tuning into one specific radio station. But according to the string theory multiverse idea, there are countless other stations out there, each playing its own unique tune or each representing a different universe. So why does our universe have the particular rules that it does? The string theory multiverse brings in something called the anthropic principle. The principle says that the reason our universe has the specific laws it does is because those laws allow for the existence of life. If things were different, we wouldn't be here to even ponder it. From Reddit user the name Forever comes a very eerie possible glitch in the Matrix. So the other night I was driving to my mom's house. I looked down at my GPS and it said ETA 2 minutes. I look up and suddenly I'm back on the highway and my GPS says 30 minutes. No time had passed. Weird maybe, but I sometimes space out and miss an exit, though I had already gotten off the highway and was close to turning onto my road. I didn't think much of it though. Then exactly 2.5 minutes later, as I was supposed to be arriving, my mother calls and goes, "Hey, can you bring down X, Y, and Z?" I was like, "Oh, I think I missed my exit. It's gonna be a while." She laughs and says, "Funny, just bring it down." I insist to her I am not there, and she says, "But I saw your headlights. Heard your key in the door. You said hi, Mom, and the dogs were at the door going crazy." I told her to check the driveway. She does, getting scary quiet, and says, "I gotta sit down." Turns out she was on the phone with my sister when it happened, and to this day, my sister swears she also heard me say hi, Mom, and heard the door slam shut. The story of a transforming woman comes to us from Redditor Alster5000. On my walk today, there's a bit that's a wide straight path with no ways to get off the path for about 300 meters. On one side, there's thick bushes. On the other, tall fences on the edge of AstroTurf football pitches. I'm walking one way, and the other person on the path is a woman coming from the opposite direction. She's wearing light pink baggy trousers and a black top, blonde hair, and glasses. I look down to my phone because I got a message, realize it's not something I need to respond to, and look back up. The gap between us has closed a few meters, but now the woman is wearing baggy blue jeans, a white t-shirt, and she's got green hair, a nose piercing, and no glasses. I look at her really confused, and she just sort of stares at me as she walks past. There's nowhere the first woman could have turned off the path, and the speed we were both walking, the second woman was in the right spot from the time I looked down and up from my phone. This next bizarre story comes from Reddit user CGCX3, who saw something completely unexpected on their drive home from school one day. So there's a city about 45 minutes from mine. Until this past month, we went to the city about 5 or 6 times a year for the last 15 years. We always go there and back on the same road. I started going to college in this city this semester, so I've been there about 20 times in the last month. Always on the same road, 2 times a day, 4 times a week. One day when I was driving back from school, I saw a neighborhood off to my right. It's not tucked back in a tree line or anything, and it's not just 1 or 2 houses, it's a line of maybe 15 to 20 houses, cookie cutter style, and a straight line perpendicular to the main road. The houses are all facing me as I drive home. The first one is maybe 20 to 30 feet from the road. There's cars at all the houses, and they don't look super new, but they're not old either. I can tell it's on an old pasture land, so there's no trees, and there's no sign advertising a new neighborhood. I have never seen this neighborhood before. When I drove by it, I was like, what the crap? Where did that come from? I drove by this morning and I saw the neighborhood and got a sense of unease. Like, I'm seeing something that shouldn't be there. I've been racking my brain trying to remember if this neighborhood was here before this week, but I can say with certainty, I have never seen it before. Now this next one really reads like the intro to a Stephen King novel. Reddit user Abducted by Neon shared their story about a gas station and some mysterious fog. I was on a small road trip. My 2 friends and I were going across state lines to drop one of them off at home. It's later at night, very dark out, and no moon. We're driving down the highway and there's no cars around. We're running out of gas, so we pull over to a station, fill up. This is when it gets weird. We start driving and I glance at the clock. It's nearly 2 a.m. We're driving down the road for maybe half an hour when we hit some fog. The radio starts going nuts and dies. The place we were going to was only 2 hours away from the gas station, so we figured it wasn't a big deal. We'd just chat. 2 hours pass. No cars, no lights, no gas stations. It was like we were nowhere that existed. The fog was still around too, and we were starting to get worried that maybe we got lost. We futzed with the radio some more to try to get it to turn on, but it wouldn't. After another hour of driving, we spot lights in the distance. It was a gas station. Suddenly the fog lifted, and as we pulled in, we realized this was the same gas station. The radio turned on as we pulled up, 3 a.m., but we'd definitely gone longer than that. Had we somehow gone in a circle? Maybe this wasn't the same gas station? We got back in the car and left, but we never hit the fog again and made it to my friend's place in 2 hours. To this day, I think about that and I can't explain it. It was the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to me. And finally, from Always Manic comes the Vanishing Woman. I go to college in a small town. One night, me and a friend are coming back home from hanging out at a friend's house when we see what seems to be an old lady from a distance. I distinctly remember looking at her feet to see if she was walking to or away from us. We had a whole discussion about why the hell there's an old lady walking at 3 a.m. because 1, she's old, and 2, it's a college town anyway. Mid-discussion, she literally turns into smoke, fog, or vapor, and just blows away in the wind. We both see it and my friend yells out, "What the F?" And I just stand there, staring at the empty air where the old lady was. We sat up all night replaying step by step what we saw, but realized there was nothing we could possibly do or recount that would change what happened.
The Mandela effect is when a group of people misremembers a historical event or person. Writer and researcher Fiona Broom coined the term over a decade ago when she created a website detailing her recollections of former South African President Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. Now, Nelson Mandela did not die in prison in the 1980s. After serving 27 years in prison, Mandela became president of South Africa from 19 1994 to 1999, and he died in 2013. Despite this, Fiona thought she remembered international news coverage of Mandela's death in the 1980s. She found out other people who shared these false memories as well, and it turns out there are so many other accounts of these so-called false memories resulting in the Mandela effect. Or maybe, just maybe, these aren't false memories, but correct memories. What if the people whose memory is different is from a parallel universe and they merged with another universe? Our universe. Now, the merge wouldn't be that noticeable, except for where some people remember the Monopoly Man with a monocle, or it being the Berenstein Bears instead of the Berenstain Bears. Up next is time travel. Is time travel real? I think so. And if people can travel from different points of time, what's to stop them from traveling from parallel universes? Nothing. Right? Now, there have been plenty of cases of people claiming to see time travelers throughout history, not to mention there's whole articles online dedicated to celebrities who have past lookalikes that claim that they are time travelers. Now then, there's actually people out there who claim to be from the future. Now, though we can't really confirm their claims, one time traveler known only as Noah claims to be from the year 2030. One of the most shocking things that he claims is that us humans will be able to communicate with aliens. He said, "We've confirmed the existence of aliens, but they're not incredibly intelligent. Right now, the government has communication with them, but we don't know it. In the future, we are actually in contact with aliens that are just as smart as humans, although we have many more advancements over them," he said. Now, many people doubted him, so he took a polygraph test to prove that he was telling the truth, and he passed. So, is this legit? Moving on to cryptid sightings. Many people have claimed to and even have recorded proof of certain cryptids. But are these cryptids just from a parallel universe and sometimes they slip into our timeline? I think so, as some of the things people have claimed to capture and see are wild. First there's Bigfoot, then there's the Loch Ness Monster, the Jersey Devil, skinwalkers, and shapeshifters, you name it. Now, there's no way these mythical creatures are real in our universe, so what if they've just traveled over? What if in another universe we're at war with different Bigfoots and that's why they hide from us here? I mean, there are some trail cameras that capture some pretty out of this world looking creatures. Well, maybe it's just because they aren't even from this world, just some food for thought. Then there's the city in the sky. In 2015 in China, thousands of residents in two areas reported separately that they saw a huge city in the sky. Onlookers, some who are said to have captured the bizarre event, were said to be mesmerized as a towering city of skyscrapers appeared from the clouds. It's believed that a parallel universe opened up for a brief amount of time. Now, obviously, other theories also exist, like the phenomenon of it being called a mirage or a secret weapon to create holographic images. Now, the mystery has sent conspiracy theories into overdrive. Now, there were previous reports of a similar sighting in China in 2011. The YouTube channel Paranormal Crucible said in a video report, the footage captured by a local resident appears to show a huge city floating in the clouds. The apparition, which was witnessed by hundreds of shocking residents, only lasted a few minutes before completely disappearing. The channel speculated it could be the result of a Project Blue Beam test, as Project Blue Beam is a prolific conspiracy theory which believes that NASA will one day simulate an alien invasion on Earth or the second coming of Christ through holograms. My opinion though, I definitely think this is one of the portals opening up by accident. Now we have the man from an unknown country. In July 1954, a man arrived at Tokyo Airport. On checking his passport, they found out that the man was from a country called Torrid. Now, as far as immigration officers were aware, Torrid was not a country that existed anywhere on Earth. When they confronted the man, he grew frustrated, and he insisted to them that Torrid did exist and had for nearly 1,000 years. When presented with a map and asked to point out the country, the man is said to have pointed to Andorra between Spain and France, as he quickly became angry and confused. Now, also, the currency bills he was carrying were from an unknown bank, the company he claimed to work for had no knowledge of him, and the hotel he claimed to have a reservation for had never heard of him either. Believing this strange man may have been a criminal, Japanese officers put him up in a nearby hotel for the night while they conducted a more thorough investigation. Now 2 guards were stationed outside the man's room to make sure he didn't escape, yet when the next morning came, the officers went to speak with the man and they were shocked to find that he had vanished without a trace. Now these circumstances have led many to the conclusion that the man had accidentally crossed into our dimension from a parallel one. Now in this parallel universe, Torrid really did exist, and the man was telling the truth. Now his disappearance is often attributed to him sliding back into his own universe, again seemingly without any intention or explanation. Now there's the freaky case of Lorena Garcia Gordo. In 2008, a woman posted on an internet forum looking for advice explaining some incredibly odd changes in her life that seemingly happened overnight. Lorena Garcia Gordo claimed to have jumped parallel universes. When she originally woke up, she noticed that her bed sheets were a completely different set than the ones that were on her bed when she went to sleep, and her car was not even close to her usual spot. Then when she headed to work, she was greeted by 2 people who knew her name and were quite friendly with her, but she'd never seen them before in her life before that day. Now she also discovered that she was assigned to a completely different department in a completely different part of the building that she previously didn't even have access to at work. Then in her personal life, she was still in a relationship with her boyfriend of 7 years, despite having broken up with him 6 months prior. Now the new boyfriend she had been dating for 4 months seemingly never existed because someone else answered when she called his number and someone else was living at his address. Now she genuinely thought that something was wrong with her and went to the doctor, but nothing was physically wrong with her. She then went to psychiatrists wondering if this was all some elaborate hallucination that was triggered by a mental breakdown of some sort, and after being evaluated they told her that she was of sound mind and all they can think was that she was just really stressed out. Now it sounds to me that she accidentally jumped timelines while she was sleeping, but that whole experience there just sounds so scary. Moving on to deja vu. The phrase deja vu is borrowed from French and means already seen. Deja vu occurs when someone perceives that they have already experienced a situation before, and their body feels familiar with the experience and the situation, and it causes confusion. Now approximately 2/3 of surveyed populations report experiencing deja vu at least one time in their lives, and it happens most often to people between 15 and 25 years of age. Now we tend to experience the feeling less as we age, and it's said if you travel a lot or regularly remember your dreams, you may be more likely to experience deja vu than others. Now someone who is tired or stressed may be prone to deja vu feelings too, and let me just say I get deja vu very often and it is trippy. Now there's not really any scientific theory for this, but one theory has led many to believe that deja vu occurs when you do something in sync with your counterparts from another dimension. Now I don't know, it's pretty cool to think about though, in my opinion, and have you ever had deja vu before? Let me know in the comments.
Posted to Reddit by Balthazar, she writes about a disturbing incident she had in class that led to a series of disturbing dreams. It started around the time I had just gotten into high school. So around the time I was about 12 to 13, I guess. It was register period on the first day back after school holidays. We all wait for our names to be read and each of us reply. The teacher reads out a name and nobody answers. Out of nowhere, I get this feeling like someone just ripped my stomach out and replaced it with ice cubes. I find it odd, but I can't shake the feeling. Anyway, about 5 minutes later, another new student enters the class and my jaw almost drops. Except for having red hair, she could have been my twin. The teacher sits her near me and I can't stop staring. She notices me and looks just as astonished. We begin a conversation, but the uneasy feeling stays with me. About 10 minutes later, the principal walks into the classroom and I freeze and clutch the desk. Here it comes. The teacher notices and walks over to the principal. They lean in together and he whispers something to her. She nods and he steps forward facing class. "I'm sorry class, but Miss X," the girl not present at register that morning, "has passed away over the holidays. She took her own life." I tuned out for the rest of what she said and just started crying uncontrollably, and that set off the rest of the class. The dreams started after this. I cannot say why, as I don't know. To go into each and every specific dream would be insanity. It's a very detailed. Let's just say when people I have had contact with, no matter how briefly in life, are about to die, I dream their deaths about 3 days beforehand. I will simply state that it is not possible to be mere coincidence, based on how many people's deaths I have dreamt. 2 colleagues I have worked with, 3 grandparents, 1 great-grandfather, 1 friend's grandfather, 2 school teachers, 1 lady I met briefly for 5 minutes one day at work, at least 3 friends, all dead within 3 days of my dreams. Make of it what you will. This next post is called "I May Have Saved My Dad in Another Universe." It was posted by Karina Nebula 89, and it reads, "My dad died a year ago, and a few months later, I had a dream that felt as real as reality, being wide awake. He was alive in that dream, and I was very confused about that. I remembered the police report I read. He died in his apartment, luckily, seemingly in his sleep, and the police had to break in. He lived in a social house building in which they checked the tenants daily, and when he didn't open the door, they called the police. I remembered the time of death on the police report, and in that dream, that time of date had not happened yet. Another reason why this dream felt so real. I could see dates and everything on my phone clearly. Everything was logical, and time passed normally, like it would while being awake. But the time was approaching. I made a plan to get him to the hospital, but he was taking his sweet time getting ready, and I was getting anxious because I knew the time of death was soon, but he did not really get why I was getting so serious about leaving. Eventually I checked my phone again, and the time was right after the time of death on the police report, and my dad was still alive and well. I was baffled. He still went to the hospital, but while he was on the way there, I woke up." This next post is from Witty Turnover 5585 and reads, "So I'm scrolling YouTube a little bit ago and see a video titled The 11-Day Disappearance of Agatha Christie, and I thought it was a mistake, so I watched the video and a few others to see, sure enough, she was only missing for 11 days. But I vividly remember my favorite show growing up, Unsolved Mysteries, having an episode about her disappearance. And in this episode, she kisses her daughter, walks out the back door, and vanishes, never to be seen again. I thought at the time it was weird because I'd learned about her in school and had to do a book report at one time. So I searched for this particular episode, and there is one of her, but again, she was only gone for 11 days. I think I skipped universes at some point because that's not the history where I'm from. Anyone else have something similar happen? Next up, we have a post by Naoiyyii. Don't know how to pronounce that. It's entitled, "My Maybe Experience in a Different Universe." It was in the middle of the night and I had just woke up. I don't know why I woke up, but I was up. I felt weird. I felt like it was super quiet, like too quiet. I know it was the middle of the night, but it was weird. I felt like everything was down in scale, like my room was smaller, my bed was smaller, and everything was. I was so confused. It was also pitch black outside, like no lights at all. It was weird, and I started crying and ran to my mom's room. My mom was looking at me weird, and she asks me, "What's wrong?" I told her, "I don't know where I am," with a crying tone, and she just looked at me like I'm crazy. She told me I can lay with her if I want. I was 11 at the time, and I won't forget it. I swear everything was too quiet and dark. When I woke up, I felt completely normal, and it seemed like nothing had happened. My mom also, for some reason, didn't even know I went into her room that night. But maybe she was just too tired to remember. And finally, we have a Reddit post by EqualStance99 entitled, "Shirt suddenly went missing and then appeared a few days later." Hi, I've had a few encounters throughout my life that are mostly explainable using logic. However, I cannot find any explanation to this experience. I took some pants and shirt out of my cupboard and put them on my bed to get dressed. I turned around, closed the cupboard, but when I turned back around to get dressed, the shirt was just missing. I searched everywhere, but I just couldn't find it. Yesterday, the shirt appeared back in my cupboard, neatly folded, as if I had never touched it. I am positive that I didn't miss it, because upon its return, it was on the top of all my shirts, and no other one is that color. I am beyond bewildered at this simple yet unexplainable occurrence.